Today I have a video for you about the snake that I found and was able to get identified. The one that had been struck in the head repeatedly. I'm sure someone felt like the world would be a better place without this snake. But the snake disagrees, so it's trying to live. And I'm trying to help it. Now, I'm not a snake expert. So if people who have knowledge of rehabbing snakes and understand things that maybe I'm doing wrong or that I need to do, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know the very best way to take care of the snake. I'm doing the best I can. I've rehabbed other types of animals and I've researched the snake and I've done the best I can. But I'm not an expert and this is not a how-to video. I'm not advising anyone to do this, especially in an area like Central America, where there are many species of venomous snakes and sometimes identification is tricky. I am documenting what I chose to do for this animal, and I don't know if it will be successful. Time will tell. The intention, of course, is release. I have no desire whatsoever to keep this snake as a pet. What I'm looking for is for this snake to regain as much use of its head and neck muscles as possible so that it can hunt and feed itself and protect itself in the wild. This is a cat-eye snake. This snake is venomous. It's a milder venom. They've never been known to kill anyone. It causes localized irritation, so it's hemotoxic to some degree. They hunt frogs, amphibians, other little ones, tadpoles, small insects. Some have been known to eat birds, baby birds and whatnot. But do you see how the snake is starting to flex and curve those neck muscles? I was also afraid that it wouldn't be able to swallow and pass food down. And because of this head injury that has its head all misshapen, I was afraid that it couldn't unhinge its jaw and eat food. But as you'll see in a second, it can get things down just fine. You can see where this area is atrophied. The muscle the snake just looks so much smaller there. The muscles are small. And when I first picked him up, he couldn't use those muscles. So I've been doing, in addition to feeding, I've been doing some physical therapy. It's gone through a bit of a molt, and I don't know enough about snakes to know if that's normal or not for one that has an injury to shed off the injured skin. But it underwent a molt on the upper side of its body. I don't know if you can see these very faint little patches on it. It's not a flashy snake, and I don't think they make good pets. You don't want to get bitten. I don't want to get bitten by this snake, but let's do a little bit of physical therapy before I feed it. What I've done is held it up and encouraged it to kink up, because it can't strike and catch its food. If it can't use these parts of its body, it can't feed itself. So see how I'm encouraging those muscles to flex up? Do you notice the snake has not once tried to bite me? These are not aggressive snakes. And they're rear-fanged. Their fangs are in the back of their mouth. So it takes a strange kind of deliberate encounter. You have to really get your finger inside their mouth to get bitten. And it happens. It has happened. There was an environmental worker a while back. There's a case study on her. She was trying to get one of these off of a fence. And it bit her finger and latched on for 10 seconds. And it caused quite a severe localized reaction as far as swelling. She said it hurt a bit, but she refused pain medication. At the emergency department, they put her on antibiotics. There's no antivenom because it's not warranted. It was a couple of 3 days that she was having problems moving her hand because of the swelling, but it resolved by itself, and said she didn't even follow treatment. It was just not a serious injury. And the thing had been latched on and venomating her for 10 seconds. So I don't want to get bitten. I'm not going to try to get bitten. But I don't think my life is in danger by trying to rehabilitate the snake so that it can be released. This type of snake is not live-bearing. They lay eggs, and apparently sometimes they eat their own eggs. Let's see, more work with the neck, baby. More work with the neck. More work with the neck. There you go. Curl up. Now, what I've been feeding the snake, and I don't know if it's right or not, these are meat eaters. I'm no snake expert, but I do know they eat lots of protein. So I boiled some chicken. I know that snakes can swallow things that are many times their diameter. But all these injuries up through the neck, I wanted to make sure that whatever this snake ate was small enough to go down and pass through. And it clearly did, because there's poop. She just pooped, and that's a great sign. So instead of one large feeding, I've been doing mini feedings with very soft foods every other day or so, and making sure that there's moisture. I dribble a little water in just to make sure that it stays hydrated. And the poop looked good. I mean, it's wet. The snake's hydrated. I don't know if I can get any of this in focus or not, but the snake's eyes have scales over them from the molt. You can see how cloudy its eyes are. And I'm not going to mess with that. It's going to have to rub that off on its own. I'm not going to do that at all. Now, what I have for the snake today are bits of egg, and they're cooked very bland. No oil or spices, just cooked, and it's a mix of the white and the yolk. That's going to be too big. And first thing I do is encourage the snake to open its mouth. And see, now it's learned. And it's not trying to bite me, it's taking the food. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to edit this video at all where you can see the fangs. I'm working this, I don't have anybody, I mean, who's going to offer to hold the phone or the camera for me while I feed a snake, right? But there are the fangs way back here. I don't know if you can even see them, but they're way back here. That's the fang, and it's not out. The snake's not trying to envenomate. It did envenomate the chicken. The second time I fed it chicken, it envenomated the chicken, and I saw the piece of chicken basically dissolve in its mouth before it swallowed it. This is just a regular pair of tweezers. Now I'm going to put it down, let it try to get that down a little bit. Come on, sweetie. This is a hospital situation for the snake. I mean, I'm force feeding it, yes, but it's because it's not going to hunt a piece of egg. You know, the egg's not going to move, it's not going to see it, it's not going to chase it. The snake was very malnourished when I found it, very slab-sided and thin, and so I'm just basically trying to bring it back to a state where it can be released. And it's motivated to eat. You can see it open its mouth. It knows what I'm doing now. All I have to do is tap on the side of that mouth and it opens right up. So the snake has learned and is eating by choice. Down the hatch, my sweet friend, down the hatch. Here's another piece for you. There's a bigger piece because you handled that one really well. And I do want to start introducing larger pieces to get those neck muscles taking things down. Just a drop or two of water. Okay, there's the bulge of the food, so I'm going to set it down. Let it work that down, and if it can work it down a little, I may feed more. As I said, snakes can unhinge their jaws and accommodate prey and bites of food that are several times bigger than the circumference of their body. And I want to start encouraging those muscles open. You have to remember, this is a critically injured snake. So, you know, there's no guarantee that still, even though it's eating, there's no guarantee it's going to survive. While the signs are there that it can recover, that there's a possibility, you're not seeing the normal level of activity. This is not normal behavior. The snake has been clobbered nearly to death. I don't know if you can see it or not. I think maybe it's picking it up. But you can see the skull fracture inside its mouth and its palate. In the beginning, that would bleed every time we would try to give it food. But it looks like there's some healing happening, and that's what I'm wanting to see. Now. Oh, this is great. Good baby. Putting on a show for us today. Yeah, you see the sensory organ in the mouth where the tongue resides. You wouldn't see me doing this with a terciopelo. No, that thing would be in pieces. Terciopelos are very bad snakes. And there are many venomous snake species here in Costa Rica. And some don't look venomous. In the U.S., you can go by, well, is the head bigger than the body? Are the eyes round? Or are they elliptical? Folks, you can't do that here. This snake's eyes are elliptical. That's why they call it the cat eye snake. And its head is slightly larger than its body. And yes, I know it's venomous, but this is considered a harmless snake. The experts say it doesn't pose any medical threat of any significance to humans. So you can't go by that. And there are some venomous snakes that look absolutely harmless. There are green snakes. You know, in the US, if you see a green snake, it's just safe across the board. You can pick it up without any concern. Here, there are some harmless green snakes, and there are some green snakes that will kill you. And there are some boas. There are plenty of boas around that if you don't have a trained eye, they look like cottonmouths. And you would tend to be very fearful of them because they may not be large enough for you to think boa. Because we think of boas as these big 4 or 5 foot snakes, you know, with these huge fat bodies. But some of them are small. And there's just there's no way to protect yourself against venomous snakes unless you know which snakes are venomous and you know well. And I don't suspect that I will ever reach the point here that I did in the US where I would just go out and see a snake and just pick it up without fear. There's always going to be an element of fear here about misidentification, and the mistake could be fatal. So that won't happen. I was very careful with the snake before I got a positive identification of it. I didn't touch it at all. I'm going to offer one more piece of egg, but if it doesn't want to eat it, it's not going to open its mouth. And I won't force it. The pattern on this snake is very faint. It's got a creamy belly, but there's spots on it. Just round spots down its backbone. That's right. I want you to wiggle and move and get the blood flow in there, okay? Get the blood flowing. Swallow it down. It probably hurts. I mean, these are serious injuries. So that, all of this is probably somewhat painful for the snake. But what are the options? Finish cutting its head off? It has a will to live because it wants the food. It takes the food willingly. You see that. And the only reason I'm giving it with these tweezers is because that's just a little too close to fangs. Otherwise, I'd just hand feed it. I would hand feed rat snakes in the U.S. all the time. And I've been bitten by rat snakes many times. And it's like a briar scratch. We're not doing that with this one. I don't think that a bite from this snake would be intentional. It would be just me getting in the way of the fangs as the mouth closed, because there's no inclination whatsoever from the snake to bite me or to harm me in any way. There was a fear response to start with, a withdrawal and pulling back, not now. And it seems very lethargic, and it is. Okay, this snake is very critically injured. It definitely needs help. We tend to think of animals as just dumb creatures, and the thing of it is they're a lot more sentient. Even the reptiles, they're much more aware of what's going on than humanity has given them credit for in the past. And that's why I'm committed to helping, to easing suffering if one is injured, or some assistance to getting it back, well, I was going to say back on its feet, but that doesn't really apply in this case, does it? Getting it back to life in the wild.